The ominous lake of fire strikes terror in the hearts of believers. It stands as the dreadful final destination for those who did not obey the truth. As devout believers, we are resolute in our determination to try to evade this nightmarish fate. The chilling term, the lake of fire, is found within the pages of Revelation, particularly in Revelation chapter 19 verse 20, Revelation chapter 20 verse 10, and chapter 20 verse 14 and 15, and in chapter 21 verse 8. It's not found anywhere else in the Bible. Its interpretation varies among Christian denominations, theologians, and individuals. Revelation 19:20 states, "And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into the lake of fire with burning and brimstone." Many Christians interpret the lake of fire as a literal place of eternal torment for the wicked and fallen angels. This view suggests eternal conscious punishment for those who reject Elohim. The main theories around the lake of fire are these. The lake of fire causes both physical and spiritual anguish. Symbolic or metaphorical interpretation. Some believe that the lake of fire symbolizes a state of eternal separation from Elohim without necessarily involving physical torture or spiritual destruction. The lake of fire may represent total annihilation of the wicked, leading to a state of non-existence rather than perpetual torment. Some Christians understand the lake of fire as a purgatory or a refining process, eventually leading to a reconciliation with Elohim. This view might align with broader conceptions of Christian universalism, where all souls ultimately find salvation. Critics and non-literalists believe that the lake of fire is an allegory or a symbol representing the consequences of evil deeds, the triumph good over evil, or inevitable justice for the moral universe. For us, we don't like guessing. We need to get to the bottom of the truth. So how do we determine what is the lake of fire? Whether it's literal, spiritual, or some other explanation, we need to read the Bible repeatedly and document the patterns we discover. The Most High obeys certain rules, meaning his punishments remain constant throughout. So now let's read Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 19. "Unless thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou see the sun and the moon and the stars and all the host of heaven, and should be driven to worship them and serve them, which the Most High thy Elohim divided unto all nations under the whole heaven. But the Most High has taken you and brought you forth out of the iron furnace, even out of Egypt, to be a people of inheritance, as you are this day." Moses is emphasizing the special bond between the Israelites and Elohim, reminding them of the covenant they made with him. He tells them that worshiping the sun and the moon or stars is ridiculous because these celestial bodies are shared by all people. But he is the source of their power alone. They don't have to share. The iron furnace symbolizes the affliction and the oppression that their ancestors experienced in Egypt. Elohim's act of delivering them from such hardships is emphasized, underscoring their chosen status and their obligation to obey the Most High's commandments. Now let's read 1 Kings chapter 8 verse 50. "And forgive thy people that have sinned against thee in all their transgressions where they have transgressed against thee, and give them compassion before them who carry them captive, that they may have compassion on them. For they be thy people, thine inheritance, which thou brought forth from Egypt, from the midst of the furnace of iron." This is the part of King Solomon's prayer of the dedication for the temple in Jerusalem after they first built it. He acknowledges the Most High's mighty acts and the special relationship between him and the Israelites. Solomon uses the term iron furnace to again recall the painful experience in Egypt. He acknowledges Elohim's redemptive power in bringing the Israelites out of bondage to be his own people. Now let's read Jeremiah chapter 11 verse 1. "The word that came to Jeremiah from the Most High, saying, Hear ye the words of this covenant, and speak unto the men of Judah and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and say unto them, Thus saith the Most High Elohim of Israel, Cursed be the man that obeyeth not the words of this covenant." Let's read that one more time. "And say unto them, Thus saith the Most High Elohim of Israel, Cursed be the man that obeyeth not the words of this covenant, which I commanded your fathers in the day that I brought them forth out of the land of Egypt from the iron furnace, saying, Obey my voice and do them according to all that I command you. So shall you be my people, and I will be your Elohim, that I may perform the oath which I have sworn to your fathers, to give them a land with milk and honey as it is this day. Then I answered and I said, so be it. In Jeremiah chapter 11, verses 2 through 5, Elohim instructs the prophet Jeremiah to remind the people of Judah and Jerusalem about the covenant or the deal that they have with him, which goes back to their ancestors in the Exodus from Egypt. Elohim warns that anyone who disobeys the covenant's terms will be cursed. Say that one more time. Elohim warns that anyone who disobeys the covenant terms will be cursed. The covenant requires the people to obey the commandments faithfully. In return, Elohim promises to uphold the commitments made to their ancestors, including providing a prosperous and abundant land. Jeremiah acknowledges and accepts Elohim's message. The passage emphasizes the importance of obedience to the covenant and the serious consequences of disobedience, highlighting the reciprocal relationship between Elohim and his people. There is no such thing as unconditional love. The Most High has conditions for his love. In each of these instances, the term iron furnace is used metaphorically to describe the harsh conditions and oppression experienced by the Israelites during their time of enslavement in Egypt. I offer to you that the lake of fire isn't truly a lake or fire, but rather a state of everlasting servitude, just as the iron furnace was not an iron furnace, but rather a condition of extensive suffering and bondage. The language of the Most High and the words he speaks are inherently visual, helping our comprehension. He uses analogies as a way of comparing and drawing parallels between two similar elements. Its purpose is to simplify complex or abstract ideas by highlighting their shared characteristics. So now, to fully understand the suffering and the feeling that people will have in the lake of fire, let's read Lamentations chapter 1 verse 1. How does the city sit solitarily that was full of people? How is she become as a widow? She that was great among the nations, and princess among the provinces. How is she become tributary? She weepeth sore in the night. Her tears are on her cheeks. Among all her lovers she has none to comfort her. All her friends have dealt treacherously with her. They have become her enemies. Judah is gone into captivity because of affliction and because of great servitude. She dwelleth among the heathen. She finds no rest. All her persecutors overtook her between the straits. In Lamentations chapter 1, verses 1 through 3, expresses the sorrow and the desolation of Jerusalem following the destruction and the exile of its people. In verse 1, it explains how great Israel was, but now she has become tributary, meaning subject to servitude and payments, going from a high place to a low place of suffering. The term lake of fire is used to illustrate the pain and the suffering that the people who end up there will actually feel. Exodus chapter 3, verse 9. Now therefore behold, the cry of the children of Israel is come up to me. I have also seen the oppression wherewith the Egyptians oppressed them. This verse is a pivotal verse where Elohim expresses his awareness and the concern over the suffering and the oppression of the Israelites in Egypt. He communicates to Moses that he has heard the desperate cries of the Israelites and observed their oppressive circumstances. The acknowledgement sets the stage for Elohim's plan to liberate the Israelites from Egypt's bondage, with Moses as the chosen leader to carry out his divine mission. This verse underscores Elohim's compassion, justice, and commitment to rescuing his people from suffering and oppression. In the lake of fire, the people will cry out more than the people who cried out in Egypt due to their oppression and their suffering. But there will be no savior on the horizon. Their suffering and their pain will be eternal. That's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.